Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the End Zone Report. As always, I am your host, Chris, and this is a show where we tackle the NFL each and every week. I got another awesome episode for you all today. It's dropping a little bit later than normally due to some outside of the podcast events that happened during the week, but we are back talking about the NFL and week 5, and then we'll look ahead to week 6. Couple of reminders at the top of the episode. You can watch the show every week at youtube.com/the End Zone Report. You can also listen to the audio version on Spotify. You can also follow the show on all social media platforms, Facebook, X, and Instagram. I post a lot of episode artwork, announcements, news, injuries, reports, and a lot of other fun artwork as well. So with that, let's head into the week 5 injury report and some other news that hit our wavelengths this week. Kicking things off, we have some notable injuries to be aware of coming out of week 5. Omarion Hampton, running back of the Los Angeles Chargers, has suffered an ankle injury. He will be now placed on the injured reserve, so he will miss at least the next month. TBD on exact timeline on when he will return, but plan on him being out for the next 4 games. Antonio Gibson has torn his ACL. He will be out for the rest of the season. So all you Travion Henderson truthers out there or any Ramondre Stevenson fans, fire up those shares in fantasy football because Antonio Gibson is out for the year. Saquon Barkley came out with a knee injury, but he did play last night against the Giants, so no worries there. Brenton Strange, tight end of the Jaguars, suffered a hip injury Monday night. He has been placed on IR, so plan on him missing the next month as well. Darius Slayton, wide receiver of the Giants, suffered a hamstring injury, and he did not play last night. TBD on a timeline for him for week 7. Lamar Jackson is still tending to that hamstring injury. I would go into guessing that he will not be playing on week 6. Let me double check that to see if there is any update on him, because I know that is a big injury to follow for this week. He is on track to sit, so plan on Lamar missing week 6. Kyler Murray suffered a foot injury. He did exit the game briefly and then came back in, so we will monitor that. Jacoby Brissett would get the starting role if Kyler does sit out this week. Brock Purdy has been dealing with that toe injury that he re-aggravated a couple weeks ago. Mac Jones will start if he is not able to play. And then Spencer Schrader, kicker of the Colts, superstar kicker of the Colts, I should say, has suffered a knee injury, and he is out for the rest of the season as well. Looking at some of the other notable injuries going into week 6, we've got some massive Buccaneer injury news. Bucky Irving, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin have been ruled out for week 6. Godwin, of course, is dealing with that hamstring injury. Evans is dealing with the hamstring injury. Godwin is dealing with the fibula injury. And then Bucky Irving is dealing with both a foot and shoulder injury. So we will see if they return in week 7. I already mentioned Kyler Murray. Noah Brown of the Jaguars, I believe. Nope, of the Commanders, excuse me. He was returning to practice. Terry McLaurin, however, is still dealing with that quad injury. I think there is some optimism around him starting this week, so we will monitor that one, of course. T. Higgins and Andre Iosivas could be the main targets for Joe Flacco, who I will talk about in a second, because it looks like Jamar Chase is listed as questionable with an illness. Interesting. We will monitor that one for sure. That is a huge fantasy implication if Jamar Chase does sit. Kind of blazing through some of these other injuries. Talked about Brenton Strange. Chuba Hubbard has been ruled out for the Panthers, so Rico Dowdle will get the start once again. Looks like Jatavian Sanders is still questionable. He is the tight end for the Panthers as well. We'll monitor that one. I believe Tommy Trimble would get the start if he is ruled out. Calvin Austin of the Steelers has been ruled out. Some more targets for DK Metcalf. Alvin Kamara is questionable for the Saints, but he will probably play. Nothing else I'm seeing as notable injuries. Already talked about the Buccaneers. Christian Watson has been ruled out, but no shocker there. Wide receiver for the Packers. He could possibly be returning next week, but most likely week 8. Let's see, any of the Lions? Nope. No injuries for the Chiefs. So that will wrap up the injury section. So to the news, I did briefly mention Joe Flacco, but Joe Flacco was traded to the Bengals from the Browns, so he will get the start in place of Jake Browning, which is, I think, a very awesome positive for the Bengals. They needed to do something differently at quarterback, but also they need to look at that offensive line. That is the real issue here. Jake Browning is a manageable starter in NFL, but he still needs to learn a lot. And of course, he is no Joe Burrow. He's not even a Joe Flacco, but Joe Flacco isn't Joe Flacco what he used to be, if that makes any sense to you. But the real issue with Cincinnati, and the same for a lot of other teams, even the Chargers have been dealing with this lately, is the offensive line problems that need to be addressed immediately. But this is how Zach Taylor and the Bengals reacted to their losing streak the last few weeks, and that is Joe Flacco, so he will get the start. If you have not seen the video of Jonathan Gannon, head coach of the Cardinals, he was seen yelling at DeMarcado and hitting him a couple times after that horrendous drop that neglected a beautiful touchdown run in that Week 5 game. He has been fined $100,000. He did come out and apologize to DeMarcado and said that no punishment will be given for the drop. And then Jerry Jones has also been fined. I believe let me pull up the exact number. I believe it was $250,000 for flipping fans the bird this past week. I want to make sure how much that was. Yes, it was $250K, and he won't appeal it. So that was given to Jerry Jones for flipping fans off the bird at the Dallas game. Well, that'll do it for this episode's news and injuries recap. Let's get over to the Week 5 storylines. Welcome to the Week 5 reaction segment of this week's episode of the End Zone Report. We're going to kick it off with storylines, which includes a new segment that I came up with for this week. I'm very excited about that. We'll also dive into the awesome Chase-O-meter for the Week 5 stats of Chase Brown, running back of the Cincinnati Bengals. So kicking us off with the storylines of the week, Denver upsets Philadelphia 21-17. You probably noticed with today's episode titled Denver hurts Philly. And me being a giant Broncos fan, this is my number one storyline of the week because it is just amazing that Bo Nix was able to take down the Super Bowl champs, Philadelphia Eagles, led by Jalen Hurts. Bo Nix looked awesome. He's starting to become a MVP style quarterback. He's got a lot to learn still. Sean Payton has done a great job with turning this organization around with the draft picks, with the acquisition of, J.K. Dobbins and Evan Ingram, who has been dealing with injuries, but is still a really cool piece of the offense. But really, it's come down to Bo Nix and his connection with Courtland Sutton, Marvin Mims, even Troy Franklin at some times, and then getting J.K. Dobbins involved, who has been a stellar running back. Philly has been struggling quite a bit these last few weeks. I'll dive into last night's game a little bit more in the game pick segment of today's episode, but Philly has really gone downhill a little bit the past few weeks. A.J. Brown has made public statements about not getting involved in the offense enough. Devontae Smith feels the exact same, but he's kind of been letting A.J. Brown speak in the social media sphere more, but you can definitely tell that Devontae Smith is very, very frustrated with their involvement in the offense. Barkley, of course, was coming into the game not being quite what he was last year, but still being an effective piece of the offense. This offense has really pretty much ran through Jalen Hurts. Dallas Goedert has a few weeks there where he had multiple touchdowns in the end zone, but this really has been the year of Jalen Hurts with his rushing and the tush push, of course, but that was not enough to take down Denver. And I'm very, very excited for Denver to take down the Super Bowl champions of Philadelphia Eagles. My next storyline is the Titans defeating the Cardinals, which I predicted on the show would happen. Cam Ward gets his first NFL win as a starter. And then, of course, we have the Giancarlo whoopsie where he drops the ball just mere centimeters away from a touchdown. We've had a couple of those this past year, especially that Josh Downs drop. I believe it was Josh Downs of the Colts who made a similar whoopsie where they celebrated too early, dropped the ball right before they broke the plane of field in the end zone, and neglected a beautiful touchdown run. But that is awesome for Cam Ward and getting his first win against the Cardinals. They have really been struggling the last few weeks. Kyler Murray does not look like the franchise quarterback that they've been wanting to. And now, of course, he has that foot injury that he is dealing with. Marvin Harrison is getting more involved, which is nice to see. But still, Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are still struggling after that James Conner season-ending injury. So kudos to all the Titans fans out there, and congratulations to Cam Ward on getting his first NFL win as a starter. My next storyline is kind of a prediction. Emeka Egbuka, the superstar rookie wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is he going to be the Rookie of the Year selection? I'm predicting on this show, on today's episode, that Emeka Egbuka will be the Rookie of the Year this year. I know now that we are coming into Week 6, it's probably a no-brainer. But after Week 2, Week 3, I pretty much felt that Emeka Egbuka was going to be that superstar Rookie of the Year. Now, maybe Ashton Jeanty really comes out of his shell. He's been really productive the last 2 weeks with the Raiders. Maybe he starts going into superstar mode that overtakes Egbuka. But I think at this moment, going into Week 6, the Rookie of the Year award is Egbuka's to lose. And I think he is going to be the 2025 selection for the Rookie of the Year. So that is my prediction in Week 5 storylines. Another one is from Monday night. Trevor Lawrence's trippy rushing touchdown is what I titled it. Now, if you remember or have seen the clips of that second rushing touchdown from Trevor Lawrence against the Chiefs on Monday night, he was tripped by his own player, I believe the center. He was basically tripping his way into the end zone, and I will post that on the social media pages for the podcast. But it is the wildest touchdown I have ever seen in all the years of watching the NFL. And it had to be one of the storylines for this week. It was one of the coolest and craziest touchdowns I've ever seen. Kudos to Trevor Lawrence showing off his athleticism and really getting the job done on Monday night against the Chiefs. I picked the Chiefs, of course, to win that game, but that was just to cover my own butt in the picks. I was actually kind of rooting for Trevor Lawrence because I think the era of the Kansas City Chiefs is over. I think they are going to start reshaping that offense once Travis Kelce leaves. Patrick Mahomes has really been the centerpiece of this offense. He's got the most rushing yards. He's had to move the ball himself. The wide receivers haven't been the greatest. Xavier Worthy is back, but he's still getting reacclimated into the system after the injury. Rashee Rice is still injured, but he will be back soon. So right now, Kansas City Chiefs are really, really struggling at wide receivers and targets for Patrick Mahomes, but it was really cool to see the Jaguars, who have become a really sneaky favorite heading into the playoffs, and they could potentially make a playoff run this year with the way they're going. They are now currently 4-1 after beating the Chiefs on Monday, so very exciting stuff to be a Jaguar fan, but I just wanted to mention that really trippy rushing touchdown that Trevor Lawrence had on Monday night. So that is one of the headlines this week. Now on to our news segment, which I have named the Red Alert segment, where we kind of go through the NFL and pick which teams that we are hitting that Red Alert button on. Like, they are not going to make the playoffs. They are going to really struggle this year, and we are just kind of out on those pieces of fantasy. So just which teams are we really worried about after Week 5? Number one on the list has got to be the New York Jets, sitting at 0-5. They've got the new quarterback that they got in the free agency with Justin Fields. And then they have the new coach in Aaron Glenn, who came over from the Detroit Lions. Going 0-5 is really tough to make a playoff run at this point. They are probably going to be last in the division. I don't see them making it into the playoffs. And now the question comes, do they bring back Justin Fields as the starter next year? Is Aaron Glenn even head coach next year? But I am hitting the red alert button on the New York Jets. They are going to eventually win a couple of games, I think, this year. But for right now, it's very worrisome to see this team go 0-5. I mean, there have been headlines the last week or so that Breece Hall is a serious trade deadline candidate, and he may not be on this team come week 8, week 7, or maybe even tomorrow we get a headline that Breece Hall has been traded. So I'm hitting the red alert on the Jets for sure. The next one is very tough for me because I have been a huge fan of this team, especially at the quarterback position the last few years. But I am hitting the red alert button on the Baltimore Ravens. They are sitting at 1-4. Now, granted, I know Lamar Jackson missed last week, but even before the Lamar Jackson injury, they were still really, really struggling, especially on defense. So for this week, after week 5, I'm hitting the red alert button on the Baltimore Ravens. They might not even make the playoffs, which is very, very unfortunate for Lamar Jackson, who has been really motivated to win the Super Bowl, who is a multiple MVP winner, and they might not even make the playoffs this year. It's crazy to think that the Ravens will not be in the playoffs in 2025. Then the third team that I'm going to mention on the red alert, and that is the Las Vegas Raiders. Similar to the New York Jets, they got Geno Smith during the free agency from Seattle, and then they also hired Steve Carroll, who was with the Seattle organization for many, many years. They drafted Ashton Jeanty. They have superstar tight end Brock Bowers, but he has been dealing with a knee injury. Jacoby Myers has been a really dependable wide receiver for the quarterback position, and Trey Tucker seems to be coming alive and being a really, really awesome piece of that offense as well. But I'm hitting the red alert button on the Raiders. The Geno Smith could potentially be benched at some point this year. He has leading the NFL in interceptions, which I believe is 9 interceptions through 5 weeks. He is not running the ball as much as he should. He is not moving that ball downfield as efficient as he has been with Seattle. It's just all bad vibes with the Raiders right now. The only positive piece that I can say is that Ashton Jeanty has finally found his groove in the NFL as a rookie, and he is looking like a future Hall of Fame superstar in the making. But regardless of the Ashton Jeanty draft pick, this team is a mess right now, and they need to do something, whether it's a quarterback change or some big move in the free agency coming up by the draft, trade deadline, to either bolster up the offensive line or strengthen up that defense. So I'm hitting the red alert button on the Las Vegas Raiders after week 5. Moving on to the Chase-O-Meter, it was another kind of disappointing week for the Chase Brown bet between Mr. James Martins and Megan, the Gridiron Goddess. His current ranking, Chase Brown, running back of the Cincinnati Bengals, is at 32. Now, granted, I know he had a little bit more of a spike in his yardage, but he still did not climb enough, so he is sitting at number 32 on the year. His fantasy points in week 5, now again, depending on your fantasy league's settings and scoring, in my standard league that I do, he received 10.8 points this week, which is, I believe, 0.7 more points than last week. He had 8 carries for 27 rushing yards, and he had 7 receptions for 21 yards. So the receptions has gone up, but the carries are only at 8, which is very disappointing. But with the way this offense is going, it's not that surprising. They haven't been an effective and efficient offense. Maybe with Joe Flacco coming into town, we could see a spike in production and efficiency from Chase Brown. So I wouldn't rule out the Gridiron Goddess yet on that $20 bet, but it is not looking good for her. It looks like Mr. James Martins will be $20 richer so far in the year, but it is only week 6. We have plenty of time for the tides to change with James Chase Brown. Not to mention, he did have 0 touchdowns once again. I don't think he has scored a touchdown this year yet. And he did have another ugly fumble this week in week 5. Let me pull up to see if he has scored a touchdown. I don't believe he has, but I want to make sure because that is really going to change the ranking at the very end of the year with his touchdown count. He did score 1 touchdown in week 1 against the Cleveland Browns. So he does have 1 touchdown on the year, but still there is going to have to be a massive change on that offense for Chase Brown to reach top 10 running back of the year. So that will do it for the week 5 reaction. Let's take a quick break and we'll head into Fantasy Corner for our hero of the week and our villain of the week. All right, welcome back to the show. We are here during our Fantasy Corner with our hero and villain of week 5. Starting off with the hero of the week is Sam Darnold, quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks. Now, again, similar to the Chase Brown stats, depending on your league's formatting for scoring. In my standard league that I run, he received 40 points exactly in fantasy. He had 34 completed passes for 341 yards, which is crazy. I believe that game against the Bucs was the first game in NFL history, or at least in a long time, where both quarterbacks in that game threw for over 300 yards and multiple touchdowns. He had 1 interception, which is unfortunate, but that did not hinder his performance, really. They did end up losing that game, which is very disappointing because I picked Seattle to win that game, but the Bucs said otherwise. And then he did have 4 passing touchdowns in that game, which is awesome. Switching over to our villain of the week, and that is Jameson Williams, wide receiver of the Detroit Lions. He received a total of 2 fantasy points this week. He had 1 reception for 9 receiving yards. He had 1 rush attempt for just 1 measly rushing yard and 0 touchdowns in week 5. It has been very disappointing for all the Jameson Williams truthers out there. And it's very surprising that with an offense so potent that Jameson Williams has been left in the dust. And it's tough because similar to a lot of teams like the Eagles and the Vikings, it's a lot of mouths to feed. You know, you could have a St. Brown week. You could have a Jahmyr Gibbs week. You could have a Montgomery week, a Laporta week, or you could even have a combination of 2 of those. But Jameson Williams has been pretty disappointing this year in fantasy. He was a wide receiver that I was very excited about coming into this year, but he has just been not performing to his standards. Now, I'm not going to rule out Jameson Williams yet. For fantasy, I think he should be rostered. He's just not startable right now. You have to wait until you see those targets go up. Speaking of his targets, I want to take a peek at what his targets have been so far this year because I think the big Jameson Williams breakout is going to come. I mean, it wasn't as great last year, but he was very productive last year. Let's see, look at his targets. Going from week 1 all the way to 5, he had 5 targets, 4 targets, 3 targets. He had a whopping 8 targets in week 4, but only 40 yards, which is very disappointing. And then, of course, he only had the 1 target for the 1 catch. So he has basically been irrelevant in this offense, but I think fantasy-wise, his day will come, and it's tough to predict, but you're just going to have to hold out and wait for that breakout to come. He could be a drop candidate this week in fantasy, but I'm going to hold on to my Jameson Williams shares until it really gets bad. But I think his week will come. You're just going to have to really cross your fingers and your toes and hope the week that you do start him is the week that he has that big blow up. And it's tough because he is so dependable on those big throws, open plays, where St. Brown is the middle of the field, getting all those targets peppered to him. Same thing with Laporta. Jameson Williams is very broken play, long play dependent, to where he's going to have 3 catches for 120 yards because of 2 big bombs that Jared Goff threw him on a broken play, and then he could have multiple touchdowns off of those. So it's just really frustrating for Jameson Williams because he's very, very talented, very athletic. He's a very good wide receiver. It's just the way that this offense is running, he is very dependent on those broken long plays of like 40 yards or plus. So very disappointing week again for Jameson Williams. So he is the villain of week 5. That'll do it for the fantasy corner on this week's episode. Tune in next time for our hero and villain of week 6, which I'm very excited to see who those are. Next up, we will get into the week 6 game slate, heading over to the weekly preview. So my picks in week 5 were very, very bad, and I'm sure I'm not the only one out there. I got 6 picks correct out of total of 14. I got the Buffalo game wrong, the Rams, the Ravens, the Chargers, the Dolphins, the Jets, the Seahawks, and the Chiefs wrong. But I'm sure a lot of people got the Chiefs and Buffalo game wrong. That Buffalo game was wild. I was not expecting New England to come out swinging like that. Same thing with the Jaguars. They were in control of that game a lot. Speaking of shockers, before we get into the week 6 slate, I want to mention last night's game, Philadelphia Eagles versus the New York Giants, which is just a bonker storyline that the Giants have taken down the Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday night. They won the game 34-17. Looking at the stats, they were pretty much in control of this game. Looks like they had the lead from quarter 1 all the way to quarter 4. The Eagles did not score at all in the second half. So they were sitting at 17 points at the first half, which is very, very surprising. Jackson Dart looks legit. Scattaboo, the rookie running back that the Giants drafted this past year, is stellar. He's a beast. He had a total of 3 touchdowns and 98 rushing yards on 19 carries. So he is clearly the dude. Even with Tyrone Chasey being healthy, I think Cam Scattaboo will be the number 1 running back going forward. Wan'Dale Robinson had a huge game with 6 receptions, 84 yards, and a touchdown. Looking over at the Philadelphia side, Jalen Hurts kind of struggled a little bit. I mean, he had 280 yards passing. He did only throw 1 touchdown, but he did have an interception. Barkley wasn't really efficient. He's sitting at 12 carries, 58 yards. Dallas Goedert had a touchdown. Looks like he was the main guy on that field with 110 receiving yards off of 9 catches. A.J. Brown was getting a little more involved. He had 9 targets, 6 catches for, 80 yards. Devontae Smith still doing what he is doing all year. Only 4 catches on 49 yards. And then Jake Elliott had a few kicks in there. But this was all the Giants. And it's very exciting to see the Philadelphias get spanked by not just Denver, but the New York Giants, who were expecting to be a forgotten team this year with how that team was shaped, with Russell Wilson coming in as a starter. I know Malik Neighbors' injury scared a lot of people, the season ender, but it seems that Jackson Dart has risen to the challenge and has taken this team to newer and better heights. Cam Scattaboo is a beast, going beast mode every week at the running back position. And Wan'Dale Robinson, even with Darius Slayton out, has become that number 1 target for Jackson Dart. Even Theo Johnson, the tight end, has been getting really involved with Jackson Dart at the start. So very exciting stuff for the Giants. I was not expecting them to come out of week 6 with this win over the Super Bowl champions Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday night. So bravo to the Giants fans. You guys got an awesome, awesome team right now in 2025. So looking at the week 6 slate, we've got another early game on Sunday morning. Denver Broncos take on the New York Jets. I believe this is in Germany. Let me make sure that is correct. Nope, they are in London again. So it must be week 7 that they are in Germany. But yep, London trip. So they are in Germany next week, I would assume. Looking at the line here. So we've got Denver is favored at 7.5. Over under is 43.5. Let me pull up my picks here as well. I am taking Denver in this, of course. You should not be surprised because I am all Denver. So I did take Denver to win this game Sunday morning. Moving on, we've got the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Indianapolis Colts, who have been a sensation this year. They are favored. The Colts are favored by a touchdown. The over-under is 47.5 in this game. And I did take the Colts this week against the Cardinals. Cardinals are really, really struggling to do anything on offense. I mean, the defense has been pretty solid, but the Colts have been a sensation with Daniel Jones at the helm. Jonathan Taylor, I believe, is the number one running back on the year so far. Michael Pittman has been a really decent target for Jones. He has been efficient for fantasy as well. Josh Downs will hopefully get more involved. Tyler Warren, the rookie tight end, has been a superstar in the position for the Colts. So I am taking the Colts over the Cardinals. The Dallas Cowboys take on the Carolina Panthers. Dallas is favored by 3. The over-under is 49.5. And I am taking the Dallas Cowboys on the road to beat Carolina. I think that hot streak that Carolina has been on with Bryce Young ends now with the Dallas Cowboys winning that game. The Los Angeles Rams take on the Baltimore Ravens, the Lamar Jackson-less Baltimore Ravens, I should say. The Rams are favored by 7. The over-under is 44.5, and I am taking the Rams in this game. Baltimore is just a hot mess express right now. That defense is not efficient. The offense is suffering without Lamar. Derrick Henry seems to be going downhill. I think Zay Flowers popped up on the injury report today. So I think this is going to be all Rams. It's going to be very tough for the Baltimore Ravens to come out of this. And the Rams defense has been pretty solid so far. I know they lost against the Niners, but I think they come back and win this game against Baltimore. The Cleveland Browns take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are favored by 5.5. The over-under is a measly 37.5. I think this is going to be an all-division defense game. But I am going with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They seem to be on a hot streak right now with Aaron Rodgers. The Browns, they look like they're in good hands with Dillon Gabriel, but I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to win this game at home in Pittsburgh against their division rival. The defense has been really struggling for Pittsburgh, but I think they're going to find their bearings against Dillon Gabriel. So if you are looking for a defense to kind of stream against your opponent this week, I would pick up the Steelers defense against Dillon Gabriel. You know, it's always fun starting a defense against a rookie in fantasy. Plus, they're probably available because of the week by last week. So they're probably really available to pick up easily. So I would start the Steelers defense against the Dillon Gabriel rookie starter. The only piece of this game I could see Aaron Rodgers struggling against is that Browns defense. They have been a really big piece of why they've been kind of looking not as bad as I thought. You know, Judkins has been a really good sensation on that offense at running back. Dillon Gabriel did show a lot of spark in his throws last week. But that defense has really kind of kept Cleveland a little bit relevant these past few weeks. So maybe they squeak out with a win over Pittsburgh, but I'm gonna put my money on Pittsburgh this week to win at home. The Los Angeles Chargers take on the Miami Dolphins. The Chargers are favored by 4.5. The over-under is 44.5. The Chargers have been struggling this last couple weeks. They have not looked good. The offensive line is broken. Justin Herbert seems to be struggling a little bit. I know with the Amari and Hampton injury, that's going to hurt them at the running back position. So I think Herbert's going to have to throw in this game. So fire up all your shares of Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen. I think Ladd McConkey. He had a really good week last week after a lot of worries that what is his position on this team? Well, he caught a touchdown and had a lot of targets last week. So fire up your lad shares. Maybe even get the tight ends involved. I think the tight end position will be something that Herbert is going to have to lean on with that running back room broken down with Najee Harris out for the year, Omari Hampton now on IR. So Herbert is going to have to throw a lot in this game. So I am picking the Chargers to take on the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins are really, really struggling right now to win a game. I thought about putting them in the Red Alert segment this week. It would be like an honorable mention. But yeah, the Miami Dolphins are really, really struggling. So I'm taking the Chargers to bounce back this week against the Dolphins. The New England Patriots, coming off their huge upset win against Buffalo, is taking on the New Orleans Saints, who have been kind of surprising with Spencer Rattler there at the helm. The Patriots are favored by 35.5. 3.5. There's no way they're that favored that much. The over-under is 45.5. I am taking New England to win this game on the road, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints squeak a win out here at home. But I really like how Drake May is doing this year. Stephon Diggs has finally found that connection with May. He had a huge game last week against Buffalo. I know the Antonio Gibson injury might be a little worrisome, but Ramondre Stevenson will be the starter even with all the fumbles he's had. But I think TreVeyon Henderson could potentially get some opportunities in this game against that Saints defense. Alvin Kamara seems to be in the same position as Derrick Henry, where he's kind of lost a step. It seems like Kendre Miller has taken over, the lead back duties. But maybe Alvin Kamara bounces back depending on his injury that he's dealing with all week. But I think New England is going to easily win this game on the road against the Saints. The Seattle Seahawks take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Seahawks are not favored. Wow. The Jacksonville Jaguars are favored by 1.5. The over-under is 47.5. This is my matchup of the week. I'm very excited for this matchup. Two teams that have really surprised the league on their production. I am taking... Who am I taking? Let me pull up my list here. Seattle. I'm taking Seattle on the road. This is literally a 50-50 split in probability. Seahawks are sitting at 3-2. The Jacksonville Jaguars are at 4-1. I am taking Sam Darnold and the Seahawks to bounce back and taking out the Jaguars this week. I think the Jaguars will be brought back down to earth after their huge win against the Chiefs on Monday night. So I'm picking Sam Darnold, who has been a very big surprise to me. I was expecting this team to get last in the NFC West, but I think Sam Darnold could take this team to the playoffs if they keep the momentum going, if that defense stays healthy, if everybody stays, focused on the task at hand, and they take this team to great heights. So I'm taking Sam Darnold to win in week 6 over the Jaguars. The Tennessee Titans, coming off of their big win against the Cardinals, take on the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are actually favored by 4.5. The over-under is 41.5. I think that is too high. I would definitely bet the under on that one if I was going to. I am taking the Raiders to maybe bounce back. This could be a really ugly game. They're both 1-4, really struggling on both sides of the ball. I think at home in Las Vegas, I think Geno Smith gets it done with this matchup against the Titans. So I'm picking the Raiders. The Cincinnati Bengals go on the road to Lambeau Field to take on Green Bay Packers. Now, this seems really accurate. The Packers are favored by a whopping 14.5 points. The over-under is 44.5. I would honestly take the over on that one if I was a betting person. And, of course, I am taking the Packers. Wouldn't it be crazy if Joe Flacco won this game against the Packers? First game with the Bengals. It's probably not going to happen, but, we've seen crazier stuff. We saw the Giants take out the Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday night. We saw Drake May outdo Josh Allen Sunday night last week. Are we going to be due for another upset here with Cincinnati? I am not man enough to take that bet, but I'm just throwing that out in the universe. What if Joe Flacco gets the deal done and they win in Lambeau? That'd be freaking crazy, wouldn't it? But I am taking Green Bay Packers. I can't do it. I need to recoup my losses here with these picks, and I'm going to play it safe, and I'm taking the Packers. The San Francisco 49ers take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are favored by 3. The over-under is 47.5. I am taking the Bucs to continue their massive run. Both teams are sitting at 4-1, surprisingly. San Francisco holding their own. Looks like Mac Jones will probably get the start once again. Hopefully he has enough bananas on the side of the field for this game, because he's going to need them. Now, even with the Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Bucky Irving injuries, I'm still picking the Bucs. You know, Baker still has Rachaad White, who was showing to be really efficient last week against Seattle. And Emeka Egbuka, like I talked about in the Week 5 storylines, looks like a superstar rookie ready to make his way into the NFL Hall of Fame. We got Sherfield there. Cade Otton could be an option in deeper fantasy leagues if you're really wanting to. But I'm still picking the Bucs at home to take out the San Francisco 49ers. The Detroit Lions head to Arrowhead to take on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. The Chiefs are favored by 2.5. The over-under is 52.5, and I believe that is the highest of the week. This could be a huge shootout game. Or it could be a really dud of a game. It could be a defense game. I am taking the Detroit Lions on the road to take down Patrick Mahomes in Arrowhead. Now, I could be really crazy about this, but I think Detroit is the better team. And I see Jared Goff throwing for probably 5 or 6 touchdowns in this game. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to struggle against Dan Campbell and that defense. And I think Jared Goff will get it done with all of his weapons in Kansas City. So that is my pick, Detroit. We once again have a doubleheader in Monday Night Football this week. The Buffalo Bills take on the Atlanta Falcons. Buffalo is favored by 4.5. The over-under is 49.5. I'm taking Buffalo. They're going to bounce back from their loss from New England, and they're going to smack the crap out of the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons coming off of their Week 5 bye, and I don't think they're going to be ready for the Buffalo defense. So I got Buffalo easily taking this game. Then our last game of the week, we've got the Chicago Bears going to Washington to take on Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. The Commanders are favored by 4.5. The over-under is 49.5, and I am taking the Commanders to win this game at home. We'll see if Terry McLaurin comes back, but I think Jaden Daniels can get the deal done with Deebo Samuel and Billy Boy at running back. So I've got the Commanders winning this game. That looks like all of the picks for Week 6. Let's end the show like we always do with the Show Me the Money segment. So I did not win again. Shocker, shocker. I have the worst luck with betting, but I'm just having a lot of fun with DraftKings right now. So I'm going to do another lineup this week. $5 entry fee. First place gets $1,000. So this is my lineup for Week 6. At quarterback, I got Jalen Hurts. He is at 6,700 this week. At running back, I got Josh Jacobs at 7,300 and Javonte Williams at 6,400. Javonte has been a sensation in Dallas. So I'm paying up for running back this week, and I'm hoping it's going to pull it off with some cash. They've got some really good matchups. Josh Jacobs going against the Bengals and Javonte going against the Panthers. So fingers crossed for my running backs to carry me. Wide receiver, I had A.J. Brown at 5,700 and DK Metcalf at 5,500 and Jacoby Myers at 5,800. Now, I did have Hurts and A.J. Brown go last night against the Giants. Let me pull up what they did last night. So it looks like Jalen Hurts got me 21 points. He had 1 passing touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown, threw for 283 yards and had 13 rushing yards. A.J. Brown got me 14 points with his 80 receiving yards and 6 catches. So not too terrible, kind of low in the Jalen Hurts department, but hopefully the rest of my lineup can pick up the pieces there. At tight end, I'm going to roll with the Darren Waller train. He has been a sensation since the Tyreek Hill injury. He is sitting at 4,000 this week. He's going against that Chargers defense, so we'll see. He is questionable. If he does be ruled out for that game, I'm going to have to pivot, but I think he's going to play. He seems to be practicing just fine this week, so we're going to roll with Darren Waller. At my flex position, I'm going wide receiver this week. I'm going to go DJ Moore. He is 5,500 this week. I think he's going to get involved against that Washington defense, and Caleb Williams, I have a feeling, is going to have to throw the ball quite a bit in this game. And then at defense, I'm going with the New England Patriots. They are sitting at 3,100. They're going against Spencer Rattler and the Saints. So that is my lineup for week 6. Fingers crossed that I win some money finally with this lineup. So that is going to do it for this week's episode of the End Zone Report. I will see you all at the end of week 6. Later, guys, and I hope everyone wins their fantasy lineups and their betting this week.